naked shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. All right. Welcome, everyone, to With Insights Radio. I'm Iggy Garcia live here in Columbus, Ohio. Take off my hat here. I'm inside. And I want to welcome everybody to episode 41, Sowing the Seeds. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today and just share with you things going on in my life, things that are happening. I know there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot happening. There's a lot of energies. There's a lot of things going on. Mercury's in retrograde. There's all kinds of amazing, cool things. So everybody's kind of going through the ups and the downs and the ebb and the flows and all that cool stuff. But I want to take some time here and just take a second and just ring my bell. And I want to take some time here to burn a little sage, kind of bring in the energies so it can feel good. Move out that unwanted negative energy and stuff. I want to welcome everybody to the show. Those of you who follow from time to time. Hello, Juanita. I see you there. It's always a pleasure to see you there, and hope you're doing well on your side of the United States and with your friends and family. I really, really love the white sage, the California sage. It's really has a nice fragrance, a nice bouquet. It's beautiful. Just want to just take that beautiful cleansing smoke, put it around my body. Just let it do its thing. That smells so good. That's so awesome. I love it. Very good. Well, here we are, and today is Monday, and we're cruising right along. It's March 26, 2018, and it's weird because in 2 days my mom will be gone for a month. It's gonna be a month, and that just blows my mind. It's just like, whoa, where does the time go? And you're still processing, still working, and still moving through that energy of that stuff. But I have good friends, awesome friends, and my family members who have helped me personally work through the stuff that I need to work through. And it's been a plus, and it's been good. I'm really grateful for them. So you know who you are. I don't have to say your name, but I'm really thankful and grateful for you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with me and the things that you do. So I know we all have people that we love and care about. One of my friends passed away just recently. My mother passed away. My grandmother passed away. My cousin, as you know, we talked last time on the show about family members transitioning and leaving. One of my good friends, Deb Wiseman, just passed away just a few days ago. It was kind of unexpected, but death isn't really unexpected. It just happens to us, and it's when it's our time to go, it's our time to go. But we miss those people. We miss the emotions and the feelings and all the things that we associate with them. And, it's just a beautiful thing. And, death doesn't have to be the end. It's a transition and a beginning to something completely new, something very, very magical, very, important. So for my friends who have transitioned and those who transition, I send prayers, and I send my hopes and wishes to you and your family members that you all need and get what you have to have in order to do better. And so that's kind of what my topic of my show is today. So the topic today, of my show is, sowing the seeds, laying down those things that we do, and the seeds that we sow and the things that we bring to the world. But this show is actually about the seeds that are actually laid prior to us, before us, in the beginning, 7 generations deep. all those family members who, struggled and battled and worked and went through all the things they had to do in order to get where they needed to be and where they are today. You know, I talked to a good friend of mine today, and we were talking about that, how 7 generations deep, and how we move into that energy, and how many people it took to get us to the place we are today, where we are today, here in 2018. You're talking about generations of people, ancestors. We're talking about grandmothers, fathers, grandparents, great grandparents, cousins, brothers and sisters, just the whole group. It's not just one group of family members, but it's the whole tribe that works together to bring that energy to the forefront. So for me, it's pretty exciting to think about that and the seeds that they sowed. And I always wonder what their goal and their mission was to, create and to sow seeds and to create things for me to exist in this place. Sometimes we're planned and sometimes we're not. So I find it a very beautiful thing to think about. It's kind of like a tree, even though that tree, like an acorn tree, for example, in not acorn tree, but the tree, that the oak tree has the acorns, and those seeds, those pods, they come out of that tree, and it has a coded message on. There's coded, written, you know, energetic language that is presented inside each of those little pods, those little acorns. And I find we're kind of the same way. There's a root and there's a beginning to where we all come from. And as that tree exponentiates and grows bigger and the roots go deeper into the ground, we share, a lot of likenesses, a lot of differences. Even though the tree, falls to the ground and the tree becomes a tree, it is still its individual tree. It's still, its genetic makeup is shared with the other trees that were there before it. And now that tree is able to be something very unique and very, independent, but yet still working together. So this big tree grows and it drops all its acorns all around it, and it spreads it all over the world, and it spreads it all over the forest ground. Some of them are catched, gathered up by squirrels and other animals, and they're consumed and eaten. Sometimes a squirrel will take those nuts and bury them in the woods. Somewhere in the woods, those are, being buried. Hola, Marixa, ¿cómo estás? Te veo ahí. And David and Herbert and everybody who's there. I'm glad you're on the air. And, so we're talking about the seeds we sow. But I want to take it a little bit further about how the seeds we sowed, our family members sowed, our moms, our dads, and our grandparents, and all those beautiful energies that they did and what they sowed and what they brought to the world. Most parents have children so they can share, the lineage and their experiences with them and grow with them, because we're very clannish, we're very tribal in the way we share our lives, in the way we share our stories. And that's important because, I had a conversation with my son-in-law, and we were talking about how, we're prey. When you think about it, we're actually very vulnerable beings. We are not at the top of the food chain. We believe that we're at the top of the food chain, but we're not at the top of the food chain. We're not even close. We happen to control the food chain to some degree because we are greater in numbers. There's a lot of us. When our offsprings are born, they're not able to take care of themselves. They're not able to do the things that they need to do. They like animals that are born in the wild, especially in the Saharan and the deserts and in Africa and all these areas where they have to be ready to run. A giraffe, a rhino, or any creature is born ready to move and ready to go. If not, it's going to get eaten. But human beings have to work in a community. They have to work in a system where we rear our children, we change our children. Like if I had my wife had her kid, all 3 of our children, she would have to literally, and we had to literally raise them and teach them. They would never be ready to just go out into the world and be who they are. It's just the way of the land, or the way of the landscape. But since we're bigger in numbers, we don't have that luxury like some of the animals. So we have to work together. So man had to come together and work together as a team in order to survive. We had to create simple tools. We had to create simple weapons. We had to create things that would help us advance us. We had to create things that, the wheel, we had to create things that are just like to get us and progress us along the way. And without that, I don't know where we would be today. We probably would be a different type of species if we didn't have the brain capacity that we have developed along the way to do the things we do. So our ancestors, for sheer one, they were just trying to procreate, and just, it's a natural, instinctive thing to procreate for most of us, especially our ancestors that came way, way before us. Their whole objective was to keep the lineage going. And a lot of them had large families because, number one, you needed to tend to the fields, you needed to tend to the livestock. Well, before even livestock, we had just had to tend to the land that we had in the space that we had. And we had to outnumber the other groups that were like us. And, and we also played the numbers games because sometimes we didn't survive very long. We weren't food. Us as human beings have the capability to see things in color, so we can distinguish shapes and shadows and things. But if we were in black and white, we would miss a lot of things. We would miss a lot of things in our periphery, in front of us. I watched a TED talk about that, how man survived because of the ability to see, distinguish colors. And within those colors, we can find shapes and we can find different things. Animals are a little bit different, and that's how animals would hide in the shadows. And I think animals have an innate ability to know that. It's just the way it is. So our ancestors, the first Iggy Garcia, or whatever you want to call them, his mission was probably to make as many versions of himself as he can, make carbon copies. They didn't really think about it that way, but they created a lineage of the family. They wanted to create more versions of Garcias, for example. But in that process, there was things that had to happen. Some things were good and some things were bad. Some things, not necessarily agree with, but it does happen. But anyhow, I want to thank, my ancestors for all the way to the beginning, wherever that first thought and creation came from. And I want to thank them for doing and attempting to do the best they could with the tools they had and with the ability they had and the things that they had to do. Because I know it wasn't easy. It couldn't have been easy, but they did it either way, and they struggled through it. Sometimes I wonder, would I've survived, back then, 2,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago? I mean, the answer right now would probably be no, most likely, if I saw life the same way that I do now. But I don't have to think about that because I'm born in the right time that I need to be. I know some of us think, oh, if I was just born, I'm born in the wrong time zone, the wrong time period. I hear that a lot, and I've said that a lot. But, as much as that is true, I also think that you are born in the right time. You are here because to create the seed that you are, to be able to function in the place you are, we had to go through a lot of stuff. Some of us had to go through the rough rocks. Some seeds were placed and they didn't grow. But our ancestors, that genetic makeup and that genetic chemistry flows through us, all of us. We look like somebody from the past, They don't look like us. We look like them, or a version of them. And, studying my heritage and my lineage, I found it pretty interesting, pretty powerful as I did the research and the struggles and the things that they did. It was pretty amazing. Some things were pretty on spot. They're kind of the same. And some things were just really unique. So now that we are here in the present moment, which is the only thing we truly have is the present moment, there is really nothing else but the moment that we have. The past is the past. It cannot change unless we physically, mentally change it in our minds or rewrite it and restructure it. It's done. It's complete. This show, when I'm done, it will be done and complete and recorded. But yet how you experience this show will be really up to you and really up to me. Even if I played it back and looked at it, I would see things that I may have said differently. I would see things that I would be excited about, and there'd be some things that I'm like, I don't know if I got that point across. But either way, the moment when we're in that present moment, that powerful moment, in that present moment, is probably the most powerful thing. When I spoke to my friend today, I was talking and I was sharing how the moment was very valuable to me, how the moment meant everything to me, because without, being present and being focused on whoever you're speaking with or talking with or engaging with, you really don't have anything. So projection to the future. So how do we sow seeds into the future? And how do we sow? And it's in the Bible talks about that, for those of you who are very Bible, oriented about, sowing seeds. Sowing seeds, we're always constantly sowing seeds. Every day we are constantly sowing seeds for friendships, for relationships, for family. We're sowing seeds for ourselves. Hi, Lily. How are you? Good to see you. So we're constantly always projecting forward, projecting to the future, and but we're making this, we plant the seeds in the present moment about how we want to go, where we want to be, and what we would like to experience and what we would like to see. And it's kind of like our ancestors, they also probably had some dreams and some goals, and they probably had to redefine them and do stuff. And I can't speak for them, but I'm sure it was probably a little bit more difficult, as we progress through time, as we move through time, and as we see things differently. We share our feelings. I have to say, I probably have a little bit easier than some of my ancestors probably did. I probably have a lot more capability to share my feelings, my emotions, and be able to share things that are in my head. I'm on this computer right now, on this microphone, these headsets, and I'm able to share what's in my core, what's in my feeling, what's in my belief. And sometimes I wonder if my ancestors had that outlet too, and how it would have been. So we live in a very amazing and a very complicated and a very intricate life right now, in a really interesting place. And I find it very, very interesting. And the reason I also wanted to bring this topic up today is because if you look around, we have a lot of people sowing seeds right now. Not just myself, not just everybody who's listening to the show. There's a lot of people sowing seeds right now. There's a lot of people making decisions for other people and making a lot of decisions for us. Now, for example, the children right now are really in a place where they're out there protesting, and they're sharing, and they're holding their signs about I want to be safe in school. There's somebody sowing ideas and beliefs in, number one, to those kids, okay? And these kids are also projecting into the future things that they would like to see differently, in which I commend, and I'm like, hey, that's awesome. I give them a lot of kudos, but I also want to give a sense of caution too, to think about it. Who is feeding you? Who's feeding you? I understand, and I don't want to get too political, so I'm not going to get political on this, but I want to talk about sowing the seeds. We sow the seeds of fear, or we sow the seeds of joy and happiness. So as we progress as a human nation, as a human world, as a human universal, consciousness, we have people out there doing things. It wasn't too long ago when I would hear people say, he's just a kid. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He has a lot to grow up to do, How many of you heard that? Raise your hand or say something, give me a bubble. How many times have you heard people say, hey, he's just a kid. He doesn't even know what's good for him. He hasn't had life experiences yet to feel anything. But, these kids are out there, and, somebody's pushing the agenda that, we need gun control. I get that. We do. I agree. We need some kind of formula. I don't know what that formula is. That's yet to be worked out. But yet people are sharing that. But here's the thing. We also have a whole other slew of stuff that we're not addressing. That it goes deeper into those roots that I was talking about. Some of us have said it's not just a gun control issue. And this is not, I don't want to be political now. It's just about sowing seeds. We're talking about how we sow seeds. So we have to be very careful how we plant our seeds, and how we plant in the mind of children the seeds and the ideas. Because remember, when we plant those seeds, it's difficult to pull a seed out of someone's mind, to pull something out of their head and think differently. So whoever is planting seeds, make sure that they're planting properly. We also have to plant seeds of saying, hey, we have mental health issues. We have family issues. We have, differences in opinions of races and how we see other people. Unfortunately, we live in that kind of world in this present time. We have not matured enough as a species to say, I don't see color. I don't love you the same way I love myself. We haven't learned to do that yet. We're learning, we're getting better, and it's probably going to take some time and generational. And this is our test. This is our test. Yes, I see all the children out there, but I also remember all the adults that would say to me, you're just a kid. You don't know what you're talking about. You know, a 9-year-old kid's going to decide what my constitutional right is. He's not even old enough to vote. But you see what I'm saying? Those are the things that I'm hearing. These are the things that are rolling into my head. And I find that very interesting because there's validity in that, and there's validity in what I see. There's validity in everything, however you look at it. Now, the gun control issue, we are planting seeds. We are planting very powerful seeds right now. And we have to be careful how we use, I hate to say it, but there are some people who will use this platform for their agendas. That's my concern. That is my personal opinion concern of how people are using children. And children are used. It's all through history. You know, every conflict has used children. The Crusades also used children. The Children's Crusade, if you remember, if you do your history. We have used and abused children, and we have created systems to protect them as well. So as a nation, we're creating now these new seeds. We really need to think and not just cheer on, but we cheer them, but we also have to be thinking. Are we sending them the right message? Are they fed up? What's really happening? We only see a small segment. And, and I'm here in Columbus, I see some things that I also see kids who are not on board with that. And that's good too. And for me, that's a good sign, because that means you're not a bandwagoner. You're just not just doing it because everybody else is doing it. And I think that's important. Children are very impressionable. They have a lot of wisdom, yes. And they are very keen. And the children today are much different than we are. And I get that. But these children are still learning from us. They're still learning from their elders, per se elders. And that's my concern. My concern is, are the elders who are here giving them the right food, giving them the correct seeds? Should we see the shadow sides of things as well, not just the shadow and not just the light? There is a gray area, and we don't see that until our minds develop. A lot of you know about this, that, we have a lot, as, when we get to about the age of 26 is when we start to go into the gray areas. After that, when we're young, we just see black and white. Everything's just black and white. No. My kids do that. My younger kids. I just see black and white. I just see black and white. No, it's this way. That's it, Dad. No, Dad, it's like that. It's like this. But they haven't had time to develop their social skills and how to communicate, how to talk, how to share, and how to listen. To listen is very important. Hi, Terry. How are you? Listening is a powerful tool, powerful medicine. And I don't think in the society that we live in today, we give enough power to listen to others, what they're really truly saying. We're very reactionary. I find that we're very reactionary, and then when we find a cause, we ride on it. And then sometimes we ride the cause through, and sometimes we don't. So my concern is, are we sowing the proper seeds? Are we sowing the proper seeds for ourselves? Are we congruent with what we see in front of us? What kind of seeds are you laying? Spiritually, emotionally, physically. We have to also be cautious, because there may be things that we don't want, that we don't align ourselves with. Just because the majority of our friends align with it, it doesn't mean that that's correct for all of us. So how do we find a common ground as we lay our seeds? As we sow seeds, as we lay them, I say lay them because we're actually burying them. We're actually fertilizing them. Some seeds we forget about. Some seeds we just let go. And you know what? They grow amongst the woods. They grow amongst the forest. They grow amongst the highway. And then they see the world according to where they grow. We're the same way. I have experiences that others don't have, and others have experiences I don't have. There are other people who grown up in a different, groups of people, Hispanic, Black, Asian, it doesn't matter. So we'll always see the world from our perspective. And then we'll try to take our perception and try to guide it into others' perceptions and try to understand them. But it's hard to understand. It's very difficult sometimes to understand what other people are feeling. But if we listen, then we have the capability to at least discern and create discernment and judge better, because to discern is to judge well, and to look at things and say, okay, I don't understand that and I don't get that. And you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe not that I'm wrong, but maybe I just never saw it that way. Maybe I never really perceived that the world would even be like that. There's going to be things that happen to other people that will never happen to me, and vice versa. That's just reality. That's just because the way we create this system has been created, to move energies in a certain direction. There are masters who know how to control energy and move energy. And you know what? Are they metaphysicians? Are they holistic people? No, it's just common practice. The same way we pass down tradition, the same way we pass down shamanic traditions. For my family, for example, they pass that down. Our government does that. Every election, we pass down energy. We pass to the next guy, and then the next guy creates that energy ball, and we keep flowing. We keep manifesting into that energy. So when do we change it? How does that change? I don't have the answers to that. And, some of you might have a better answer to how we change that energy. But what I do know is if I change aspects of how I am as a human being and how I navigate through the world and how I move and how I accept, how I love, how I teach. I posted, something about picking your teachers. When I said that, we're all teachers. But not all the information you get from your teachers is congruent in alignment with your belief system. So how do you tell somebody that you're not in alignment with them without offending them or hurting them? You have to create healthy limits and boundaries with them, and you have to be honest. Sometimes we're just, in order not to hurt somebody's feelings, we don't say something. You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to be a jerk, and just say, There's ways to be tactful and to share. And then there's times where you have to be firm and you have to be strong with how you share and how you do. I'm sowing seeds. I'm laying the groundwork. We all do. Sometimes we have direction and sometimes we don't. And sometimes it's very spontaneous and just very magical. And, to think about my great-great-great-grandfather, and I kind of look like him, and what his mindset was, what his goals were, what his dreams were, and how he wanted. But yet, we still live in the same kind of 3D existence. We still do the same things in a certain fashion, a certain manner. When you look around, we're not too different. People have good days, people have bad days, and people have certain ways they live with other people. When you break us down and you put aside all the things that you think there are things that separate us, we're not that different. We're probably a lot more alike than you think. But humans, for some reason, we're very clannish. We're very, tribal. We're really like certain things, and we dislike certain things. And you can see that in our particular society, in the Western society, that's been exposed. And we're able to see it more than we used to. And you know what? It's a good thing. Because now we know, we can see it. Now it's not hidden in the underground. There are some things that are still hidden, but the majority of it's come out. And I find that very good. I find that as a good thing. And sometimes you have to have something that is very abrasive and very rough in order to see what we needed to change. You don't always change things in the light when you're in the light. Sometimes you have to step into the darkness in order to move into that space of light and back and forth. And you have to find the ebb and flow in that. Because you can't stay too long here and too long here. You have to find that balance, and which puts you into harmony. We're all trying to do this, and we're all trying to be good and right and do the right things. But yet we don't flow in harmony. We don't find that harmonic piece in part of us to be just part of the orchestra. An orchestra with one instrument is beautiful, but when you start adding components to it, the drums, the flutes, the tambourines, the chimes, the violins, you start adding components to it, it starts to have a very harmonic, very beautiful flow. Now, sometimes when the orchestra's playing, someone makes a mistake, you don't necessarily hear it. But the person who was playing that piece, and they know they made the error, but you keep flowing. Most of the time, people don't even know you're even hurting. Most of the time, people don't even know that you're going through things. Most of the time, people are just so busy doing their own thing, playing their part in the orchestra and doing their part, that they don't even know that you even made an error and that you made a mistake, that you're even going through a situation, that you're even having issues, in whatever relationship you're in or whatever. Because we're too busy focusing on what we're doing and what we're sowing and what our part is and how we move through, the world. So when we're in there, so when we're in there in that orchestra and we're playing our part, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And that's the harmony. And through the harmonic resonance and the harmonic flow that we're through, we find the balance in the rhythms and we dance to it. And that's all what we're all doing. We're all trying to find our place in the orchestra of life without hurting others, without hurting ourselves, without the majority part. That's usually what we want to do. Our first agenda is not to hurt others, to do harm. Our first thing that we usually want to do is to do better for ourselves so we can do better for the others, so we can sow those seeds. And we all have our things that we're good at, and we all have our things that, we're not so good at. But it shouldn't stop us. It shouldn't stop us. But a lot of us get hung up that I can't play the violin. But you know what? Damn it, you play the best freaking, triangle than anybody has ever played. And if you want to get better at something, then you have to work on it. But your part's important. I guess my point is that your part's super important. If you ring the chime once in the orchestra, the triangle, boom, or the drum, and that's what you do, then you have purpose. Your purpose is fulfilled. Your purpose is done. You're doing what you need to do. But too many of us get hung up in the things that we're not capable of doing versus the things that we do well, and the seeds that we sow. A lot of us, majority of us, have children or have, family members who have kids. If you don't have kids, and we pass information. We pass, the knowledge that we have inside of us. Every single one of us has a fountain of knowledge, a fountain of beliefs, a fountain of, of love to share with the world and share. And usually you share that with your closest friends and the people that you love the most. But here's the thing. Sometimes we can't share it to our closest family because they're not in a position to not always necessarily listen to you, because they know your quirks. They know the things that you are. They know how you are perceived in their eyes, mind's eye. They see you in a different light. So they judge you directly or indirectly. They will judge you. And so then when you're being judged, it's really difficult to focus on the things that you're good at. They don't see it. They can't see it as much as they would like to. But that's why when we make friends outside of our families, we have other friends, we share our stories, we talk to them, we learn from them, and then we find the fits. And we probably have to go through a lot of people in order to find the right fits. And that's okay. It's like relationships. Sometimes some people are very gifted at meeting people and being in relationships and then move out of them and come back and move in. And then some other people find it very difficult to move into relationships or find relationships because they don't have one with themselves most of the time. The biggest relationship is for us to find how we navigate through the world. What's good with us? Inside of us, how do you feel about you? Do you see yourself a certain way? We all see ourselves in a certain light, and we all experience ourselves in a certain way. It's because we project our belief systems upon people. And then when we project it on it and they don't fit into our belief systems and, memories and associations and stuff, then we question. We question those things, and which is a normal thing. But now, we always, every day and every moment, we have the opportunity to change. We have the opportunity to move into a different light, a different feeling, a different resonance. Now, this world is a beautiful place when you look for the beauty in it. This place has a lot of unlikable characteristics and stuff. I don't want to call it bad because I don't know if it's bad. Maybe it's just bad because the way I perceive it be bad. But there's some shadow sides that need to be seen sometimes. Sometimes in order for us to say, ooh, yeah, I'm okay over here. I feel for these people over here. And I feel for this person over here. You know, our burdens are our burdens, and we carry them, and we'll always carry them. But there are other people whose burdens are much bigger and much stronger, but it doesn't make it less or bit right. No, it's not bigger or less. You know, don't feel guilty because somebody else is suffering more than you, or vice versa. It's because you're in a place where you don't have to suffer like that. So you've been blessed and you've been, you know, given a gift. Now, you know, there's an old school is, well, you got to go through the shit in order to get, you know where you're at. There's a half truth to that. It's a half truth. That's just half truth. It's not true. You can learn a lot observing other people's suffering. You don't necessarily have to be suffering in order to learn from it. And sometimes we don't learn from it because some of us keep doing the same thing over and over and think we're going to get better. You know? And you're right. Our perceptions become our reality. To some extent, yeah. For some people, it becomes very real. It becomes very real. You know? So how do you stay in a place where you don't come across like you don't give a shit? And excuse my vernacular because sometimes I think that gets to the point. So how do you move into that space? Sometimes our only job in life was to observe someone suffering, and there's nothing we could do but share their story, observe their suffering, take that suffering and say, I see your plight. I see what happens to you, and I will do my best to not allow that to happen to somebody else. But it takes a lot. Sometimes we have to pick our fights. Sometimes we have to fight. Sometimes we don't have to fight at all. You know, there are great leaders in this world who fought, you know, causes without lifting a hand. There are other great leaders who lifted a hand. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just what it was. It's just what it is. It happened. Each one of us has some purpose in this world. You know, if you want to find your purpose, just walk down the street. Look around. Look around what you have. Look at all the gratefulness and all the gratitude you have. If you walk down the street and you're uncomfortable and you don't feel good and there's something wrong, it's because there's something we have to change. The majority of us, and I'm going to say the majority of us, can walk down our neighborhoods and not know a majority of the people who live there. And I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I could tell you that just from my own experience. Not that I didn't want to meet my neighbors and know who they are, but sometimes your neighbors don't want to meet you. They don't want to know who you are. They would rather just go home and just hide in their little box and be done with it, watch Netflix, watch a marathon or whatever they're going to watch, and that's enough for them. And that's okay. That's fine. But if you ever notice, now that we're in this new technology world, the seeds that we're sowing with our iPhones, for example. Here's our iPhones, you know. We turn them on. We have our little passcodes. We look at who sent us messages, you know. And sometimes the people are sitting right next to us and we send them a message. And sometimes we're on the bus and we're sending messages to somebody across the world. I'm not saying it's wrong or right. You know, now we live in a time where people can't be without these things. And I've been really, you know, thinking about that to myself, you know. A lot of the work that I do involves social media. I'm not saying social media will collapse and be done with, but, you know, what would happen if we didn't have social media? How would we communicate? Well, we'd have to go back into our memory banks of how we used to communicate before. We used to go out. We used to do things. And then there are people who are on social media and still can't get it right. Still can't find a date. They still can't be happy. They still can't find the joy in the things that are in front of them. So, you know, it's neither here or there, but we're more attached to our technology than we ever have. So what kind of seeds are we laying there? What kind of seeds are we going to sow into the future with the technology we have? You know, I don't know. I don't know if you have ideas and answers. I don't know what's going to happen. But we are definitely, okay, with social media and technology, laying some very powerful seeds. Okay? You know, I used to say, the generations that are coming before us are going to have telepathy. because people don't talk on the phone anymore. People don't actually call people. I mean, it's from time to time they do. Hey, what's going on? But majority of the time, everybody's texting. So there's a form of that's a form of telepathy. That's a form of communication where it's written and that's not spoken. You know, I don't know what we're preparing for and what's coming up and what's going to happen. But we go back to this place, you know, where our mind is expanding in a different way. Some people say our brain's going to get smaller, our brain will get bigger, depending. I don't know, whatever school you're from. But I find it really interesting. I find it really interesting that we are consumed and we're sucked into this technology, and that it's so vital to our survival now. You know, for kids, it's a very powerful tool. It's a very, very, very. I don't even know how to describe it. You know, my 2-year-old granddaughter, she can, and my grandsons, you know, they navigate technology, you know, like it's second nature. And then I know some, you know, older people who can't even turn on a computer. So it's very powerful. You know, where are we going? What happens in the future? You know, our ancestors too, who were creating and sowing and laying seeds, I wonder what they thought about. I wonder what they were thinking about. Did they think about technology? Did they even know what technology was? Did they even have an idea that we'd even go to the moon or go to outer space or send ships to Mars? You know, I mean, what did they think about when they looked up to the stars? When they saw the stars, did they think they were from there? Did they wonder? You know, I wonder about that sometimes. What they thought. Were they too busy living and trying to survive and pay their bills? Possibly, like we do. We're doing the same things. That we totally miss everything that's in front of us because we're so consumed by the things that we want and we think we need. And the stars are right in front of us and we don't even look up sometimes to say, wow, that's beautiful. I mean, how many of you have looked up on a beautiful, clear night, cold or warm, it doesn't matter, and just wondered if there's somebody at the other end of that star, sitting on that star, which may be a planet that's already burned out, looking at us from their vantage point, wondering if somebody's thinking about them. I think that way. That's a little insight into me, how I think. When I look up at the stars, I think about all the people who are probably thinking about if there's another person out there in the universe thinking about them. And you know what? It's kind of cool feeling, because I would have to say, yes, I can feel that. I can sense that. I can, science can't prove that's what I'm seeing or that's happening, but it doesn't matter what science says. I don't care what science says. I know deep in my core, in my feeling, in my emotions, that that's happening. If science can say that that star is actually burned out 1,000,000 years ago, and if I was to travel to that star wouldn't be there, or that planet, or whatever it is. Our universe is vast. It's huge. It's powerful. You know, it's endless. And how we travel through it is still a mystery. I know there's ways to travel through the space and through time and go to places that you need to go. That's for another show. But, you know, when you sow those seeds, think of all the seeds out in space. Think about all those seeds that are floating, that we're going around the sun and we're looking every day. Those are magical seeds, things that have been placed there by an architect that's just much more advanced than us, because we're architects too. But this architect is amazing. We have a sun that heats for us. Somebody sowed the seeds. Somebody sowed the seeds for that. Something had a plan. Something had determined that this is how it's going to be. And I find it really magical that the universe had a plan. It's not random. Sometimes scientists think things are random and they happen because this happened, because something hit something, and boom, this is what happened, and this is what I don't believe that. I don't believe that anything's random. I believe that there's a fine line, and there's a beautiful thing that is happening constantly. Right now we exist because we see ourselves and we experience ourselves. But, you know, the universe is so beautiful. And when I say universe, it's God. God created something. God created this amazing experience. And how we want to experience it is truly up to us. We can experience life in a way that's really negative, very positive, or both, or a combination. It's really up to us. But either way, the seeds we sow and the things that we teach our children, the things that we create, the feelings, the emotions, and all the things that we lay for them to watch as an example, it's powerful. My ancestors did a lot of work just as your ancestors did. All your ancestors were trying to create and keep the line going as best as possible. But for some people, it ends. And what doesn't end is what you shared. So what are you sharing? And I want to ask you, what do you share with everybody, the universe? What do you share with your friends? What do you share with your children, your family, your significant others, the guy that's down the street? So when you walk into the bank, I'll give you an example. I walked into an AutoZone today, and excuse me, I walked in, and nobody said hello. They looked at me like I was intruding, and I was like interrupted their conversation. They didn't look like they were talking, and the guy didn't even say thank you at the end. So but I knew he was going through stuff. I could have been a jerk and said, "Hey, what's wrong with you? Why don't you greet me at the door?" But as you progress into certain areas of your belief systems and how you see the world, you understand that guy is going through something. It's either my job to just observe him, and that's what I chose, just to be an observer, or I can find ways in order to engage him. And I did a little bit, but I knew that that's not where he wanted to be, and I didn't want to make it about me. I wanted him to be where he was comfortable. And but I thanked him. Either way, no matter if he didn't thank me or didn't say come back next time, blah, blah, blah. But his manager comes in. And they obviously, both the workers had some kind of spat with the manager. And that carried off into, how they were treating me or the next, customer. You affect people. We affect people. We touch people. If you're angry and pissed off and you have a business, like I have a business, it affects people. People go out to shop, they do, and they buy because they don't want to be at home. They want to do it and they need it. So how do we create customer service? How do we create love? How do we create those seeds of love? How do we sow that? But I learned something. I learned that, excuse me, I learned not to do that. I learned that was uncomfortable and that doesn't make right for me to behave that way. For me, I'm just talking about Iggy. So if I'm having a bad day, why do I want to project my bad day onto somebody? I want to give someone the opportunity to project the goodness onto me. But we make these choices. We make these intricate choices to either do the right thing or not do the right thing, to sow the proper seeds, because we sow seeds in other people too. We don't just sow seeds into family and friends. We sow seeds into strangers. One smile can change the world, right? I do free hugs campaign. One hug can change someone's life. Somebody was willing to do something for someone else unconditionally. When you open your arms, it's just a hug, man. I'm here to hug you, and you know what? And I want you to feel good. It's not about me trying to be weird with you. I just want you to know that, somebody cares about you. And that's why we do things. But that experience was powerful for me. How he was sowing a seed and didn't even know he was sowing a seed. Okay, but I had a choice in this. I had a choice to absorb it, take it personal, and say, well, you're just being a jerk, But I didn't. I did the reverse. I went about my business, bought what I needed. And you know what I said? Have a great day. Thank you very much. He didn't say anything. He was back in his mind, back locked in the chambers of his memory of probably what happened to him when he was a child, something that happened to him last week, and something triggered. He was very triggered. He wasn't triggered by me. Okay, I could have made it about me, but I didn't. He was just triggered about something that played out earlier. I could tell, both of them. But I wasn't going to give him my power. I wasn't going to go and say, okay, because it wasn't important. He needed to be where he needed to be. I knew where I was. I was happy where I wanted to be. I just wanted to put spark plugs in my car, put a couple quarts of oil in my car, put a little transmission fluid in there, and get a light bulb for my car. And that was my goal. That was my whole goal. And the guy was there. So hopefully I sowed a seed to him too. Hopefully he might come back tomorrow and go, wow, I was a jerk to everybody. And this one guy walked in and he was chill with me. He didn't even say anything. He was just like, but you know what? That's how life is. Life, it gives us opportunities to do things and to be able to, manifest things. Not just for ourselves, but other people. We have a very gifted and magical power. So, because when you're an employee somewhere, you are required to act a certain way with people and to behave a certain way with people because you want them to come back. So, will I come back? Of course, I'll come back. It's not a big problem. I'm not going to get hung up because now if he was, vulgar with me and was rude to me, that'd be a different story. But he wasn't. And I know he was going through stuff. And that's where you start to learn. And when you start to listen, you start to observe and you go, it's not about me. It's about all of us. All of us are going through shit. All of us are going through good times and bad times. How long we stay and we wade in the muck is really up to us. That's our journey. That's where we have to decide. And and I understand, here's another thing. I understand that, Mercury is in a retrograde and all this stuff, and we're having all these things happening to us, and we're in the Neptune station, as my friend Mark Matheny would say. And I see Mark's on there now. But hi, Mark. I find it very interesting that the average person doesn't know these things. They don't even know what's going on. But I do. I know that something's going on. So I have this power to embed an idea, of this power to create this seed and plant it. I could be very, good about it or be very upset about it. There's different ways to do it. And I guess that's what I'm saying. When you're out there and when you're planting seeds, because we're constantly planting seeds every moment of the time. We even plant seeds for ourselves. What do you do tomorrow? What do you do? What do we need to do? So it never stops. It never ends. That's the beauty thing about being human beings, is that we're able to make the decision if we're going to want to feel a certain way or not. That's the free will that we have inside of us. That's the emotion. Animals have to do certain things every single day in order to survive, in order to make it in the world. The deer that crosses the road every time by my house always has to do the same thing in order to live and to make better. He can't just go on vacation, get on a train and go to Florida, or get on a plane or get in a car. It's dependent on doing every day the exact same thing. For me, I'm not dependent to do the same thing every day in order to get the same results. Every day I can do something different, as just like you, to get better results, to move into a better space. I can look at every scenario and every situation and judge it however I want. Good or bad, indifferent, whatever. Aloof, It's really up to you. But it's difficult for people. It's very difficult to understand that you have a choice in how you experience life and how you sow your seeds. You do. We all do. You don't have to do it the same way every day. Every day, you don't have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning. You can get up at 6. You can get up at 9. Oh, but I have responsibility. Well, then that's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how you experience life. How you are sowing seeds within yourself. What's valuable? What's important? Are you happy? Are you guys happy? For the most part, how you're living your life. If you're not happy and it's not comfortable, then you need to really look inwardly and say, why do I feel this way? Why am I feeling this way? Why is life not giving me the results that I want? Because it's not life. It's how you perceive life and how you are experiencing life and how you're allowing life to affect you and how you're allowing others to project upon you. That's what you're feeling. That's what's happening to me, to you, to everybody. If you're not comfortable in your skin, you need to address and you need to figure out why you're not comfortable in your skin. And most of us will not talk to anybody or anyone and think that we have the solution for everything. We don't. I don't have the solution for everything that happens to me. I have to have a network of friends and family to help me, coach me, put me in the right frame of mind. Majority of the time I can do it for myself, but I find that that's not that way. We're supposed to be in tribes. We're supposed to be in groups, but we're also supposed to create healthy limits and boundaries between the people that we entrust to give us, their feelings and their emotions, their advice, and whatever you want to call it. We also have to say, nah, I don't want that. You're not going to hurt someone's feelings if you tell them not how you feel, not how you think you feel. It's how it's not necessarily right for you. If you say, nah, I don't like that. Tactfulness. You have to be tactful with people. You have to, and some people you can't be tactful, but majority of people you can. You know what? Bill? I appreciate it. But we'll see how that works. You'll find the wording. I don't need to tell you how that. But we're constantly sowing seeds. So I don't know what kind of seeds you're sowing. I don't know what your goals and aspirations are. But this world is to be enjoyed, to be loved, and to share, and to give, and get back, and to be challenged, and to be, look at things and go, wow, that's crazy. And then sometimes like, wow, that's beautiful. Why is the sunset beautiful? Why is the sunrise beautiful? Because we say, or because it is. So when you're sowing your seeds, do you sow them because you want something to happen? Or do you sow your seeds because you're hoping that by sowing the proper seeds, things will come a certain way? Don't put expectations in your seeds. Love your seeds, water your seeds. There's a difference. When we give expectations, then we are, forcing results on something that we don't know how it's going to be. Because sometimes our seeds will surprise us. The things that we sow will surprise us. Our kids will grow up to be a certain way. Our friends will be a certain way. The company we created will be a certain way. By sowing your seed and not putting expectations on it, but giving it guidance and giving it, love and caressing it, sometimes the seeds don't grow. Sometimes they just don't mature. And sometimes they don't go into the energy field that you want them to go to. That's part of life. But you'll know what seeds to sow. You'll know, what you have to do. It may take some of you dozen times, thousands of times to get whatever you think is right. But don't get hung up on it. Just take your moments, relax, get into your meditative states, take a deep breath, be thankful, be grateful, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes, because you'd be surprised. The thing that you thought was really bad was probably the thing that molded you and changed you and put you into that frame of mind to be completely different. We learn as much from the light as we do the darkness. And then when we're in the gray area, in the middle of that balance, that harmonious place, we can take those and combine them. That's why it's gray, because they're an integral dance. And that dance is magical. And that dance is what gives us the insights. We have enlightened moments. Now you've heard that we have enlightened moments. Why does that mean? We're not always in the light. And then we have dark moments. But in neither one do we stay long. We kind of back in the middle. We find that middle ground. We're able to see the dark. We're able to see the light. Sometimes we just see here. And that's enough. And then we attract people in here. Sometimes we attract people here. Sometimes we attract people here. It's a magical, beautiful dance. And that dance is really up to you, how you want to experience it. So that's it for today, guys. I want to thank you for tuning in. You guys are awesome. And I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate your comments that you've left. And I appreciate the comments you leave with me in private, because it's important. This is how I learn, and this is how I share. This is my forum. This is my way of giving back to my community, giving back to the people that I love and care about. So all I can say is do your best at any given time. Ho'oponopono, much love, live seek me, and I'll see you guys in the drum circle. So see you around, be well, visit me at IggyGarcia.com, visit me on Instagram at mandriani.com. You guys take care, be well, I'll see you next time. Iggy Garcia Live.